So what do everyday Americans think? Our panel is here to discuss. Keisha Hiban is an attorney. Vincent Hill is a former police officer. Dr. Diane Hess is a pediatrician. Dr. Jean Zaino is a political science professor. And Kevin Kelly is a managing partner of Benchmark. We're going to try to get them all in. And then just for a bonus round, we're going to come back at 9 a.m. Eastern. So I want everyone to have a say. I'm going to throw the first open question to not move this in any direction. But what do you think when you hear what we reported a couple moments ago, that beyond the gun control debate, that the trained police officers who could have helped did not help?
Well, I'll take first stab at that, being former law enforcement. It is very disheartening that you have individuals that were trained for these types of situations that did nothing, that led to the deaths of 17 young kids. It's very troubling.
Heartbreaking. Now, Keisha, you're pro-gun control.
Yes.
Tell me what you think. This started a week ago, say, as we got to do something about guns. I'm not saying that's gone away, but as we've gotten more facts, people who were trained to deal with guns weren't jumping in. Where are you now, almost a week later, in how we move forward?
Well, I still believe that we do need more gun control laws, but I think the issue with that is that our police officers are not trained to deal with these mass shootings that have been happening. Our country has not been prepared for it at all. That's why I believe there is a need for more law enforcement. There is a need for restricting individuals from owning semi-assault rifles and weapons that should only be used in combat. So I think that's a major issue.
Jean, I feel like I could bring you in here because in terms of dealing with schools, which the president had this listening session this week, and our kids, which are the most important part, from a public health strategy standpoint, what should we be doing?
Well, let me just follow up and say, in terms of this man who didn't enter the building, this was a failure of epic proportions at all levels of government, from the 39 reports about this young man, to the calls to the FBI that weren't followed up on, to this officer standing out for 4 minutes while people were being slaughtered inside. This was a failure of epic proportions on all levels of the government. And in terms of a public health approach, which is what I advocate, the liberal argument that we need to deal with gun control has failed dramatically. What we need to do is talk about this as a public health crisis, the same way we did when automobiles came out and we had to deal with safety issues there. And when you do that, you can get to the point that Keisha's talking about in terms of making solid moves forward from a public policy perspective.
Let me first go, though, because I want to talk about mental health, and I'm going to come to Kevin, because she was just talking about maybe a little anti-gun control. You're pro-states' rights, so I want to keep it going around Dr. Diane Hess. Mental health, as a pediatrician, where all that fits in, and then we're going to get Kevin in here.
So mental health is a huge crisis in America. The biggest problem for us as pediatricians is there is not very good reimbursement for mental health providers. I am a provider in New York City. It is almost impossible to find a child psychiatrist who actually takes insurance. So if you really need to get a psychiatrist, you almost have to be hospitalized. It has to come to that point. So we need reimbursement for mental health providers, for school social workers, to prevent this from happening in one sense. But we also need to limit the access of these kids. Kids do not need to get assault rifles. Every study has shown in other countries that you limit the access to assault rifles, and these mass shootings do not happen.
Kevin, you jump in right there.
Yeah, I think the issue that we're having here is that we're trying to find a central focus, and we're making the NRA the boogeyman, and it wasn't the NRA's fault that the sheriff's office didn't act on numerous tips, especially when you look at February 5th of 2016. They were alerted to a fact that he made an Instagram post with guns and saying he wanted to shoot up the school. Now, my issue is, if you don't have laws on the books that can put him under arrest or confiscate his guns because of that, but people can't yell fire in a crowded theater, that's an issue we're having here.
I see Vincent nodding his head, and I want to get you in here because you started the conversation. But I also want to point out, even President Trump said this week, though, regardless of what happened with the deputies, regardless of mistakes made, there needs to be some sensible gun measures here. The president himself is talking about that. So how does that fit in?
Well, I agree. Like, you shouldn't be able to purchase a gun at 18. When I was a police officer, I had to be 21 before I could get certified with a weapon.
Rob O'Neill, real quick, a Fox News contributor, shot Osama bin Laden, tweeted over the last 24 hours that you should be 21 to vote and 21 to purchase a gun in America. How many people, how many hands think that's a good idea? All right, we found some agreement, so make your point, Vincent.
But my point is, we're talking about the NRA, we're talking about assault rifles. If you think about Dylan Roof, he didn't have an assault rifle. He had a Glock 45 caliber, which is what I carry. So if we start talking banning these assault rifles and that, it's not going to solve the problem, because you'll still have these mass shootings. We need to talk about how do we react to those a lot faster.
You guys, a quick last point.
Last point. If you make a threat that you're going to do an attack in a gun-free school zone or in a gun-free zone, there should be laws on the books
Diane,
where you
10
have
seconds.
to be held accountable.
Well, this child was reported multiple times. He wasn't even allowed to carry a backpack to school. He was only allowed to carry a clear bag because they were so afraid of him.
Right.
The system failed all the students.
I feel like we heard from everyone. We're going to hear more at 9 a.m. Eastern. I want you to tweet at Fox and Friends. So what did we miss in this debate? And I want everyone, after all these points are made, how many hands believe President Trump and Republicans and Democrats in Congress will do something to move the country forward in this? How many are confident? Give me your hand if you think you are confident. 0 hands. That's something we got to deal with. We're going to talk about it at 9 a.m. Eastern. Thanks for all of those viewpoints.